What started off in the UK?
The name, the Afrobeats, the name. The name. It being coined Afrobeats. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I don't get anything. Afrobeat, nothing in the UK. The UK has no input in Afrobeat whatsoever.
But it's not Afrobeat. It's Afrobeats with an S.
Let me make myself very clear. The UK has no influence in the creation or naming or anything that has to do with Afrobeats. The Afrobeats roots of beginning.
Afrobeats, an African music and cultural movement that has taken the world by storm. A style of popular music coming out of Africa, with artists performers like Nigeria's Wizkid and Davido, Ghana's Sarkodie and R2Bs, and Tanzania's Diamond Platnumz leading the way and breaking new barriers. In a recent interview with Burna Boy, one of the current African music leaders, I was presented with the notion that the recent global success of African music had nothing to do with the UK. Was I misinformed in my understanding of the term Afrobeats and its origins? Or is there a disconnect between African artists with the way that African music is consumed in the UK and the importance of the UK in its growth? My name is Dboy Dayo, a radio presenter on the Beat London 103.6 FM and a club promoter in London. I wanted to dig a little deeper into the UK's relevance with Afrobeats, so I decided to connect with some of the heavyweights in the UK scene. Adesope Olajide, aka Shopsydoo, TV and radio presenter. Stefi Koko, PR guru. Abass Tijani, media consultant and broadcaster. Shuges, radio presenter and international hype man host. Amour A-star, DJ, actor, host MC and events coordinator. Toba Abiodun, aka Bad Guy Toba, international events organizer. And Junior Adeoshun, aka Smade, business and entertainment promoter. First, I wanted to understand their journey within the music scene and what the experiences were with Afrobeats in the UK.
So first of all, we started this whole thing. It's been a journey, and we started from club nights. Then it was just us having fun. A couple of guys came together, created a brand, Smade. And then we started pushing this music because we wanted to feel good about our own music and listen to our own music. Yeah. We were tired of the hip hop rap, So, we achieved that, and gradually we moved on to tours and started bringing shows down to the UK. And, the likes of Wizkid, Davido started evolving, and we started bringing them down to the UK for shows, tours. Now we're selling out the O2 Arena.
Well, as you know, people call me Shuges, but I was only 1/6 of a clog that was collectively known as 90%. 6 guys, all of Ghanaian descent. When we came up, we came out in a time period where it was a very West Indian dominated scene.
What year are we talking?
Back in the 90s, some year in the 90s.
When I started, I was probably the youngest promoter DJ in that particular scene at the time. I started off with, a group called Black Knights.
Infamous Black Knights.
Yeah, the infamous Black Knights. Which was what we were a force to be reckoned with. We were the urban Nigerians. Yeah. So for us, we were the Nigerians that were in the yardie raves. Yeah. There was another group who was like our Ghanaian version, which is 90%, Hit Squad.
We came up in a time where it wasn't fashionable to be African. People were hiding their identity. People that, talking with Jamaican accents or what have it. It was not fashionable to be Ghanaian. One thing I will say that 90% we pride ourselves on, we made it fashionable to be Ghanaian, because initially when we was coming into the game, those doors were closed.
The movement, it hasn't been easy getting to where we are now. I remember back in the days where you have a DJ, you couldn't even play 2 Afrobeat songs in a club. It would get chucked out. We had times we couldn't even put Afrobeats on a flyer. We had to, even if it was a black night, you couldn't even promote an Afrobeats gig. But we thank God now, it's been a long time coming, the major problems, you know, you have, because we're in another man's country, you know, racism comes into play, the industry demons come into play, jealousy, people trying to pull each other back. You know, we're not as united as we should be, you know, so many things come into play, but the music itself as well, do you understand? The fact that we're here where we are now, I personally look back and I think, wow, just 5 years ago, you could even play a Burna Boy or a Davido track in a club.
You know, it was just, you know, Ghanaians doing their thing, Sierra Leoneans doing their, Nigerians doing their thing, East Africans doing their thing, you know. And that was the trend up till the very early millennium, 2000 to 2003, when it started changing. Interaction was now more than them just coming now. We're actually playing music across the board. In 2003, I had a music show, the first African-produced music show in the UK dedicated solely to African music, and it was called Intro with DJ Abass. Yes. It was a live show on Sky TV at the time and would basically just play the very, very best of African pop music coming out of Africa. We had access to all the videos, very heavy on Nigeria, but thanks to my Ghanaian connect, I used to get a lot of Ghanaian stuff as well. Talked about Premier Gau, got some stuff from Ivory Coast. And for me, that did a lot to, it became a point where people could come to every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. to watch the very best of African pop music, you know. And it slowly started, and then also, I and my partner, we have the pleasure of being the first Nigerians to actually bring a pop artist, what we would classify today as an Afrobeats artist, to the UK in Tony Tetwila. We call it the Big Nigerian Independence Jam in 2003. Tony Tetwila and Tribesmen. And in 2004, we brought in Maintain, which had Olu and Tolu. And in that same show, the band emerged. And like I said, the band was born on that show. Don Jazzy was part of that show. JJC and the 419 Squad were part of the show. Those names kind of represented the hub in terms of performances of the African pop movement. It was not Afrobeats at this time.
West End was the spot, yeah. So let me just create a sort of a timetable on what it was like to rave at that particular time. Tuesday you'd go Gas Club. Wednesday you'd go Hanover Grand. Thursday you come to, in fact, in all these places that I'm mentioning, 90% were playing there, DJing. Tuesday was Gas Club. Wednesdays, you know, I mean, sometimes we'd be at Hanover Grand. Thursdays we would have been Swing City, yeah, at Samantha's, yeah, just off Regent Street. Friday we used to do Corks, yeah, and then go and after Corks finished, we go and rave with our colleagues in Rampage in SW1. Saturdays we was hosted, we was resident in Cameos. Sunday we used to play Club Zero. It was hip hop, R&B, maybe a little bit of house, maybe a little bit of garage, bashment, yeah. Obviously, we coming from where we're coming from, so yeah, you know, let's squeeze in a few, you know what I mean, Sweet Mother or what, some little wagadoodle, you know what I mean, music in there. Nearly got kicked out of the club. Woo! Nearly got kicked out of the club.
You know, this culture, this Afrobeat culture, this movement is not easy. We're losing weight over it.
It's not. It's not.
Who told us to play African music that night? I'm talking about you're in the West End, Saturday night is where you had to wear hard heels and trousers with cloth. So yeah, it was a case of we were literally summoned by the club owner. Said, nah, we don't play that music in here. Yeah, I mean, obviously they weren't using no derogatory terms, but they made it quite clear, yeah, that you do not play Afrobeats in the West End. This is an African music-free zone.
It would be ludicrous to suggest that African music started or originated anywhere else than from Africa. Afrobeat, the popular genre created by the late great Fela Anikulapo Kuti and championed by his two sons Femi Kuti and Seun Kuti, in fact, is the only musical genre that makes reference to its origins. Burna Boy's remarks with regards to the UK's involvement with the creation of the term Afrobeats opened up a discussion picked up on various blogs and news outlets as to whether the UK had any involvement at all.
The term Afrobeats, one, was obviously coined in the UK in the sense that we added the S to the authentic Afrobeat music.
The UK Afrobeat scene, as we like to call it, has been, you know, growing quite fast. And I feel that the recent successes are down to the concerts and media personalities that we have in the UK.
Afrobeat came from, you know, from some people will say Fela Anikulapo or Kuti, but it came from us feeling good about our genre. You know what I mean? So I cannot tell you that one person specifically named the genre Afrobeats, but I can also tell you that we did a show called Afrobeats Festival in 2010. That was Smade, Phoenix Media, and Koko, hosted by DJ Ambrante. You know, that was where Afrobeats Festival came about. And there was so much music around that time. There was Don't Dull, Wizkid, Alat Your Boy, there was Madame Duro. So there were so many songs around, but we needed to name that genre.
What I push is Afrobeats. So Afrobeats movement is not really the music that Fela plays. Generally, it's the whole culture, the dance, the shoku shoku, the clubbing, the whole movement. Do you understand?
When the term emerged, and I don't know how, that's just the fact of it. I don't know how, but the term emerged and we took it on. And I remember all my journalist friends in Nigeria at the time, they're like, you people are just copying Fela now. What is Afrobeats? It's Afrobeats, of course. Fela is a legend. And let's even say the term Afrobeats. Let's now say the term Afrobeats was coined from Afrobeat. That's a great thing. That's a fantastic thing.
We take nothing away from Fela at all. And, you know, I remember playing Fela at the time before, obviously we're going back to the 90s now. Not only Fela, I remember playing Femi, his son, on Choice. And even having that opportunity to do that, and the show was called an Afrobeat show. It was Saturday afternoons, and even to have the platform to do that was also another time to say we've arrived. Because like I said, previous to that, they were saying from a West Indian perspective, they say, who are these African boo-boos?
I was listening to Femi Kuti recently where, you know, because that term has kind of like divided a lot of, you know, communities. And first, Afrobeat is not a Nigerian term. It's an African term. Now, the fact is, in Africa, if you go to South Africa today, you want to hear Kwaito, they won't call it Afrobeats. The locals call it Kwaito. In Ghana, they call it hip life. In Tanzania, they call it bongo music. In Nigeria, they call it Naija pop. Do you get it? But the umbrella term has made it easy for a new generation of listeners to align with it. In the real sense of it, the term that comes under Afrobeats, musically, does not have a lot to do with Afrobeat. The irony, you mentioned Burna Boy, is personally for me, I think he's one of the few artists that's actually produced a song I would call an Afrobeat pop song, Run My Race. That song still does my head in always.
You know, in Africa, everywhere you go, you're hearing African music.
Is it Africa or Nigeria?
Okay, let's bring it down to Nigeria. You're hearing all the radio stations are playing, I don't want to say Afrobeat, they're playing African music all day. You have shows every day, you have concerts every day. The artists are big celebrities in that country. For us over here, now we're in reach. Before it was quite out of reach for us, so it was a big thing, like, oh, okay, Wizkid is coming to the UK. He wasn't doing concerts, he was doing club tours. So for us, it's a massive, like, oh my God, we listen to his music and he's coming to the UK. So that's how now the Afrobeat started to grow in the UK. With the term Afrobeats with the S on it, the reason that they don't understand it is because that's their music. They have African hip-hop, African R&B, you have people like Praise, you have people like Showdem Camp. To us, they're all Afrobeats, but in that country, they're R&B, they all have a specific genre. But if you're in the UK, you can't put Showdem Camp in hip-hop or send them to a hip-hop radio. You can't send Praise, you can send Praise to an R&B, but we put it in Afrobeats because there's no genre here. So for us, we had to make our own genre. Oh, what are you listening to?
So all of them can come through those platforms.
Because on radio stations now, they have Afro swing. As far as I'm concerned, Afro swing is grime. It's never Afrobeat. So to me, Afrobeats is anything African music. Nigerian, Ghanaian, South African, Cameroon, Tanzania. That is Afrobeat.
You know, you've got rap, you've got crunk, you've got trap. You know, various different elements to it. But to Bobby, it's hip hop. You know, it's hip hop. You know, people say, oh, but yeah, rap music originated from New York. Everyone's always going to have that argument. It's always going to have that argument. No one's disputing what it is, where it's come from. But in order to take it to that next level, you need to, it's all about branding. And the UK did that very, very well. You know, with the likes of, JJC and the 419 squad. You know, these were also the connects, the Banj during that time. You know, he was part of, JJC and the 419, all of these people. Don Jazzy.
Don Jazzy, absolutely. Very influential.
Very influential. But when you take it back, where does No Long Ting come from? That's a UK saying. Nah, no long thing, bruv. It's all good. He took it to Nigeria and it became something else. And so the UK for me was it took it to that next level where people outside of Africa could identify with this particular style of music.
You've seen a recent interview I conducted with Burna, and he mentioned that the UK has no influence whatsoever in Afrobeats. What do you make of these comments?
It angered me. The reason why it angered me because he has the better end of Afrobeats. He has the better end of the deal. He wasn't there when there was no social media. He wasn't there when we were flying over, all of these artists to put them on stage with no funding, and all of these artists were coming and we would take them to these mainstream clubs just to get them seen, And all of these other players, we'll put them in there so that people could see them. And that spread the word.
Where Burna Boy was coming from is that the UK shouldn't come and jump on and say, oh, this thing that do you understand? So I understand, and how it is that people tend to take what we've slaved for and then say, oh, we made it. But the truth is, without the UK's involvement, big shout out to Koko, big shout out to the Dennis Akwabas, Amours, the DJ Abass, absolutely. The Michaels. These are the people that fought, that paved the way. Literally, these people.
So if you look at the growths of the likes of Wizkid, Davido, Yemi Alade, Tiwa Savage, Adekunle Gold, Burna Boy, all these people, Diamond Platinums, all of these guys have at a crucial time in their career had a massive or a successful concert or something huge around them in the UK that projected their stardom to the rest of the world. Like, wow. So these guys are killing it in the UK, and that promoted the genre to America and the rest of the world.
When you say that the UK has absolutely nothing, no influence at all, come on. Like, what we have done, there's a few people. When we were doing our shows, so Black Knights were doing their shows. We were doing our shows. Along came DJ Abass with Intro. So I know 90% were doing some stuff. I'm not sure if they were bringing over artists at the time, but the two main people that were bringing over artists was, because I remember these battles, with ourselves. It was ourselves and Intro, Black Knights. And we were bringing over, the Star Pluses, the P Squareds, Rugged Man,
we're talking
NATO C,
late 90s,
Two-Face. Do you know how much it was a battle? For the first UK show for Two-Face, we did, I think it was Hippodrome. That was like early 2000s, something like 2001 or 2 or something like that. We did that specifically to go inside with what was happening with the Mobos. So we put in a fight to get, at the time, African music recognized on the Mobos. There was a young lady at the time called Sheila Okonji. We were all together, putting this together. Grinding it out. you know, would sit down with Kanye, and Kanye King, who is the CEO of Mobiles, she sat down and listened. Africa is Africa. You come here, we are a community. The rest of the world is not Africa. The rest of the world is a community. So you may sell stadiums in Africa, you know, whether it's Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Sierra Leone, you may sell out stadiums there. But you come here and you can only sell 500, a venue of 500. But there's somebody working for you here to get you to that stage of thousands.
As a journalist, it is my responsibility to ask questions, press on responses, and to raise relevant topics for discussion. How could I have presented my question better? Or was it a question that I shouldn't have even bothered to ask? Did the term Afrobeats start in the UK?